Greetings. I once again apologize to interrupt your daily viewing pleasure for this important announcement. Greetings! Welcome back everybody, I'm Halfway Gaming and it's time we complete episode 2 of our Void Storyteller RimWorld series. Just on a small side note, each episode will have a unique name. The meaning behind it will be discovered throughout the episode. So as a small challenge if you want, you can try to decrypt this secret meaning as we progress. With that being said, let's begin. Our 5 colonists, having just defeated the insect hive last episode, which was positioned just below our cave, have spent the night pondering about other possible dangers. With this, it seems that our muffalo, Zoya, was almost forgotten about, as she has several untended wounds. After the success of our insect battle, our colonists now have a fresh supply of meat, but it won't last. Despite colonists not liking insect meat all that much, it would be a shame to see it all go to waste, as ingredients production right now isn't going the best for our colonists. Luckily, Rena's taking the job into her own hands, building us a campfire so that these corpses can be butchered and then turned into meals. As we are setting up the task of cooking simple meals, it is important that we change the ingredients list so that it includes insect meat. You can see here that although we have already butchered a rat and a few insects, Gideon has yet managed to find another dead animal. And with the success of butchering also comes the production of our very first meal. This meal is important, despite it being of simple complexity, as it only requires one kind of ingredient to produce. Our colony is now one step closer to self-sustainability. As Gideon is remembering that there shouldn't be puddles of blood on the floor where you're cooking, we can see another advancement happening. Our entire workspace is about to become indoors. With this comes our colonists' production speed increasing, as well as their overall moods, as the sleeping outdoors penalty will not be with them anymore. Pickle finally wakes up at around midday and is tending to Zoya, hoping to save any wounds left from battle turning into permanent scars. Now, at this point with Pickle, Gideon and Rena on the brink of finishing their tasks, something else begins. That's right, our first message of the series. And it doesn't bring welcoming news either, as a pack of man-hunting cats have entered the area, hungry for human flesh. As we position ourselves to take a better look at this threat, it turns out that it is just 2 cats. And yes, I did check the whole map just to make sure. It seems that our colony wealth is far below any amount that would create a possible fatal threat just yet. But the grand monument we build may change that up. Getting back on track with the current danger, we actually notice by pure accident that Marcus, out scavenging, is in a very dangerous position, as the manhunting cats have entered our map right above him. Marcus, deeply thinking about his best options, decides to cross the marshy swampland in order to gain more time for our other colonists to bring more firepower. Possibly a genius move. He knows he wouldn't stand a chance alone with a piece of wood for a weapon. As the cats are hot on his tail and catching up, they notice that they will have to get wet if they want a snack on Marcus. As we can see, these foolish cats are turning around to take the drier path, giving our colonists far more time to prepare. One could say a little too much time. We can now take this battle into our own territory, positioning them to wait in the marsh and shallow water. We can also just slightly reposition them away from the nearby scattered metal, as occasionally the in-game AI will have the attacker move in front of cover while moving towards us. Quickly checking Seven's shooting skill to make sure I didn't make a horrible mistake with the weapon choice. It seems Seven misses all 3 shots against the manhunting cat. 7 doing this once more allows the cat to get perhaps a little bit too close before finally killing it. A similar thing happening with the second cat, except it lands a hit on Marcus and now forcing our colonists to go into melee attack with it. Which does prove to be a decent strategy as it quickly falls down. Concluding our first manhunting threat of the series, Marcus only has earned a few scratches from these cats. Despite the victory over the cats in battle, it seems things are starting to take more of a downwards turn. Pickle, Marcus beginning to get rained on, and Pickle again preparing some not so tasty insect meat are the least of our worries, as Rena seems to be jumped by a presumably hungry Arctic fox, as she is going to grab the free bedroll from around the mountainside of our base. Before relocating the bedroll, I was thinking, what hurt can it be to get another bed? But I must have forgotten that we are playing RimWorld. So, a few moments later, it seems that Rena being downed in the marsh requires a rescuing, and quickly. With the Arctic fox attacking Rena, I would have thought for food purposes, it just wanders off, seemingly not caring that she's even there anymore. As night approaches, we can now send out Pickle to go rescue Rena in the rain and the marsh, to hopefully bring her back for some patch up. With the Arctic fox still wandering around though, it complicates things further, as now it wants Pickle instead. Which honestly confuses me, as the Arctic fox gave up on Rena when she was downed, and it's not even in any kind of manhunting state either. Despite this, the Arctic fox is quickly catching up to Pickle, forcing her to let go of Rena and face the fox alone. Pickle, having just leveled up her melee skill, deals minimal damage and then is also downed. Gideon and Marcus now the second attempt of rescuing their friends, dragging their feet through the marsh and shallow water, only being made worse by the rain. As Pickle is placed into our only bed, we can now see that the scratches and bites from the Arctic fox have done a little more than just down her. They seem potentially fatal even. With the timer ticking against Pickle, Marcus must tend to her quickly and to a high standard to avoid death or infection. But infection is exactly what we get. Or perhaps Pickle gets, as Marcus is not a trained medical worker and produces poor tends to the bites and scratches. It seems that Marcus can be classified as a horrible doctor now, giving Pickle 3 infections. Luckily, our colonists were sent here with around 30 glitter world medicine, and 7 taking over produces some much higher tens. Meanwhile, Gideon doesn't seem to be doing much of a better job tending to Rena, but she is currently getting no infections, so I guess was Pickle unlucky? As Pickle is healing in our only bed, we must make sure to keep an eye on her infections. Despite the Glitter World medicine and somewhat decent tens, the tend will still expire after 12 hours, meaning that it looks like we will at least have to spend another 3 Glitter World medicine to avoid death. As Glitter World medicine is quite expensive and hard to come by, it almost seems like a waste, but harvesting some heal root and using that instead may give some poor tens, putting Pickle at even more of a risk. So, to avoid this again and the mood penalty that comes with it, we have placed down 5 consecutive sleeping spots beside the stonecutter's table, just to make sure that everyone sleeps inside from now on. And these spots should be self-assigned when night falls again, so we don't have to worry about who sleeps where. In the late afternoon, we seem to have grown on our steel reserves as Marcus and 7 have been hauling in scattered material, mostly steel. Meanwhile, I'm just keeping a very close eye on Pickle's 3 infections, as they can become out of control very easily in RimWorld. Later on, we can select some berry bushes to be harvested, just to keep a healthy supply of food available for cooking our simple meals. But it seems that Rena might consume all of our meals, as she starts on a food binge. Despite her only being on a minor break risk, her final straw was intense pain, coming from the battle with the Arctic Fox yesterday. Speaking of which, she's actually battling the same fox yet again. My mistake for not keeping a closer eye on this, but with that seems like some kind of miracle, Rena actually comes out on top. Walking away with only a few extra bruises, but still in a food binge, eating 20 of our precious insect jelly. On the cusp of night, Gideon can once again tend to Pickle's multiple infections, producing similar and satisfactory results. A few moments later, 7 falls into a major break risk, as around 10 small mood penalties add up. It seems that our colony is not in the best place right now. At this point, we have more than enough resources to build a small 1x2 table out of steel for our colonists to eat at. We will need to be urgent about eliminating these small mood penalties, as they are the source of our mental breaks so far. On the next morning, after Gideon finishes cooking up our last raw meat into simple meals, we can notice that the muffaloes are getting into our stockpile. But maybe it's not such a bad thing after all, as our previously unmentioned muffalo, Violator, takes a bullet for our colonists. As the day progresses, nothing too exciting actually happens, except for Pickle successfully getting over her infections, and Rena's remaining bruises are fully tended to. Oh, and 7 begins an insulting spree directed at Gideon. Once again, coming from minor break risk. I think this is one of the worst potential breaks that we could have had, because it brings down the moods of other colonists. In this case, Gideon, as his mood is the main battle we are currently fighting against. As we can see here, just 2 insults towards Gideon gives a -10 mood penalty, expiring in 2 days from now. A few moments later, our colonists are finally ready to both name our faction and our settlement. Now, I'm not sure why this was the pre-existing name for our settlement. Seems a bit odd for RimWorld, and shows us that 7 isn't the only one insulting people right now. As I haven't really thought about what the names of our colony and faction should be, it takes me a while to come up with anything. I eventually come up with Void Loyalists as our faction name to follow along with our colony's plan of double-crossing Void. And a much better settlement name than the pre-existing one, Marshy Gloom. My thought for this was to take some features of the map we are on and add a somewhat voidish feel to it. As we accept these titles, we can see that the previously menacing Arctic Fox has finally died after that rematch with Rena, ready to be butchered by Pickle. With the new colony titles, we can once again look at our planetary position relative to the closest Void base, as to mentally prepare ourselves for what is to come. But it seems we are interrupted by 7 and Gideon, 2 of our most moody colonists getting into a social fight. Luckily, it doesn't last too long, but 7 was bitten by Gideon, giving the potential for another possible infection. Funnily enough, injured 7 actually goes off, tending the very last bruise on Rena instead of himself. A truly selfless man. Or maybe the plan is to free up the medical sleeping spot for himself. Oh, maybe he wants a proper bed too. We designate 7 to self-tend just to boost his experience in the medical skill. Hopefully in the future giving us another reliable doctor, other than Pickle. As when she was downed earlier and had some almost botched 10s, we didn't have the most reliable doctor. With some sub-quality 10s, Arctic Fox meals, and major break risk stemmed from insults, the night once again threatens to fall across our settlement, the marshy gloom. But there is one more thing to do before bedtime. Finally, after days of effort and countless injuries, we can grab that one bedroll that teased us for so long throughout the episode, and forget to assign it to anyone. Well, not to forget, we also got our other bed indoors. With our sleeping problem at least partially covered for the night, we can move on to some smaller matters as we near the end of our second episode. Firstly, we can designate a new place for our 2 muffalos within the cavernous area over on the left side of our base, to both keep them out of danger and just organize our colony that little bit more. With Violator sick from food poisoning, it should take her a while to travel to her new pen. Marcus also being on a major break risk shouldn't worry us too much, as he is just tired and needs a bite to eat. A dead Arctic fox also catches my eye over on the right side of the base, killed by a warg. Oh, and if we keep looking, there is another, presumably killed by the Arctic wolf right there. Well, Gideon is going to have to be quick if he wants his hands on some fox meat, as it seems like the warg and wolf in the area have almost run out of food, and I can nearly be sure that they don't mind the taste of human meat either. The colonists seem to prefer the packaged survival meals over our cooked ones, so for now we can restrict them from eating any packaged meals, so as to not waste our spoilable simple meals. Talking about food, we have almost run out of fuel for our campfire. We can use this very handy tool that will only select fully grown plants to be harvested, and firstly use it on the front of our base to maximize wood harvest efficiency, as harvesting partially grown trees yields much less timber overall. With the imminent break of Gideon, as she was insulted 6 times yesterday by 7, he falls into a daze, set to wander around for a few days. We can only hope that we don't get our first raid in this period of time. With a bunny beginning to be butchered, an Arctic fox for next time, and our rice for the first time ever being harvested, I think that this is a great place to end the episode. Having to put the base construction and development mostly out of the way this episode, I think that we have gotten through most of our mental breaks to come, as the beginning is always mentally the hardest part for our colonists. We have organized our food production and remembered how to medically organize our colonists too. Oh, and we got that one bedroll. So in the next episode, we can begin construction of our series lore, or in other words, the Grand Void Monument. For this episode, that's all I have for you, so thank you all for watching and stay halfway.